When did the I need sympathy kid cross the line? There was a girl in our school who cried during everything, lost her pencil, tears, got a B-, breakdown. If someone else was getting attention, she'd find a reason to hijack the moment. We called her Crisis Chloe behind her back. It started small, a sprained wrist before exams, a sudden family emergency the day of presentations, the same dead aunt, twice. Most teachers gave her the benefit of the doubt. Students just rolled their eyes and moved on. Then came senior awards night. 2 hours before the ceremony, Chloe burst into the office claiming her family had been evicted. She said her dad got arrested, her mom had a breakdown, and she had nowhere to go. The principal gave her a private dressing room to calm down. A teacher donated a dress. Someone brought her food. She walked into the auditorium late, eyes red, voice trembling, telling people she was only there because she didn't want to ruin the night for everyone else. Then her phone lit up. A friend sitting behind her saw it. Snapchat. Chloe in her bedroom mirror, curling her hair, holding a Best Dressed award she hadn't even won yet, timestamped an hour earlier. Turns out she made the whole thing up. There was no eviction, no arrest. She'd lied to skip rehearsals, avoid writing her speech, and fish for sympathy. Again, the school revoked her award. The teacher who gave her the dress asked for it back. People unfollowed her overnight. The next week, someone wrote Oscar-worthy on her locker in red marker. She transferred schools 2 months before graduation. No goodbye post. No tears this time. Just silent.
My manager always called for a 20-minute team meeting after work, unpaid, so I finally had enough. When I started working at this tech company, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Good pay, decent benefits, and a team of only 10 people. I was the newest guy, so everyone else was basically my senior. First day on the job, everything seemed normal until 4:55 p.m. rolled around. All right, everyone, log off your computers, my manager Dave announced. Daily team meeting in conference room B. I figured this was part of the job. We'd clock out at 5:15 p.m. after the meeting, which meant an extra 2.5 hours on my paycheck every 2 weeks. Easy money for just sitting and listening, right? Wrong. When my first paycheck came, I stared at it confused. 80 hours exactly. No overtime, no extra time for those daily meetings. I pulled aside 2 of my coworkers, Jason and Amy, during lunch. Hey, do you guys get paid for those after-work meetings? I asked. Jason laughed bitterly. Dude, we've been doing this for 3 years. Nobody gets paid for those. Dave says it's team building and essential communication, Amy added, making air quotes. But HR won't classify it as work time. That afternoon at 4:55, Dave did his usual routine. Log off, everyone. Meeting time. I followed everyone to the conference room like a sheep. Dave droned on about quarterly goals and client satisfaction scores. Same stuff he could have put in an email. At exactly 5 o'clock p.m., I stood up. Sorry, Dave, I need to be somewhere important, I said, grabbing my bag. 10 pairs of eyes stared at me. Dave looked stunned, but just said, okay. I walked out, clocked out at the time clock, and drove home. The next day, same thing. 5 o'clock p.m. Hit. I stood up, gave my excuse, and left. Dave never stopped me. Jason whispered, "You're crazy, man," as I passed his chair. By day 3, I noticed Amy checking her phone more during the meeting. Day 4, Jason kept glancing at the clock. Day 5, when I stood up at 5 o'clock, Amy stood up too. I also have somewhere important to be, she announced. We both left together. Dave's face turned red, but he couldn't exactly stop both of us without looking like a tyrant. Within a week, it was like dominoes falling. First Amy, then Jason, then Kelly from accounting. By the second week, only 3 people stayed for the full meeting. Dave was talking to half-empty chairs. One morning, Dave pulled me into his office. "So, this important thing you need to get to every day, what exactly is it?" I looked him straight in the eye. "It's personal, Dave, but if you really want to know, it's called having a life outside of work." He shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "These meetings are crucial for team communication. Then maybe schedule them during work hours," I suggested. Crazy idea, I know. The next week, Dave tried to be smart about it. He moved the meetings to 4:40 p.m. But here's the thing about starting a revolution. Once people taste freedom, they don't go back. "Meeting time!" Dave called out at 4:40. I kept typing on my computer. "Sorry, Dave, still working. Client deadline at 5. Jason didn't even look up from his screen. Same here. Amy was on a phone call with a customer that she definitely could have wrapped up, but chose not to. Dave stood there for 5 minutes, watching his authority crumble. Finally, he announced the meeting was canceled. 3 months later, Dave got transferred to a different department. Our new manager, Lisa, sent meeting notes via email and only called meetings during work hours when absolutely necessary. All it took was one person refusing to work for free. Now, when I see new employees getting taken advantage of, I always tell them the same thing. Your time is worth money, and if they're not paying you for it, it's not your problem.
My daughter came home crying every day from school because her best friend started ignoring her after getting a new iPhone that my daughter couldn't afford. Emma had been best friends with Zoe since 2nd grade. They did everything together, walked to school, ate lunch at the same table, had sleepovers every weekend. My daughter would come home with stories about their inside jokes and secret handshakes. They were inseparable. But everything changed when Zoe got an iPhone 15 for her 13th birthday. Suddenly, Emma wasn't getting invited to hang out anymore. At lunch, Zoe would sit with the girls who had fancy phones, showing off her new camera and playing games Emma couldn't join because she only had my old flip phone. Emma came home in tears 3 days straight. "Mom, Zoe won't even look at me. She said I'm boring now because I can't text her or be in the group chat." It broke my heart watching my confident daughter shrink into herself. I worked 2 jobs just to keep us afloat after the divorce. There was no way I could afford a $600 phone for a 13-year-old. But seeing Emma's face every day, knowing she was eating lunch alone while her former best friend posted Instagram stories with new friends, made me desperate. That's when I remembered something my grandmother taught me about friendship. She used to say real friends don't need expensive things to connect. They need shared experiences and genuine care for each other. I had an idea. Instead of trying to compete with technology, I would give Emma something Zoe's iPhone
iPhone couldn't. Real adventure. I started planning surprise activities for Emma and whoever wanted to join. Mini road trips to the beach, camping in our backyard, teaching her to bake my grandmother's secret cookie recipe. The first weekend, only Emma and I went hiking, but she seemed happier than she'd been in weeks, taking photos with my old digital camera and collecting pretty rocks. She posted one blurry photo on her rarely used social media with the caption, "Adventures with Mom." Monday at school, 3 different girls asked Emma about her weekend. Turns out, while everyone else was stuck inside on their phones, Emma had stories to tell. Real stories about getting lost on the trail and finding a hidden waterfall. Within 2 weeks, Emma had new friends asking to join our weekend adventures. Girls who were tired of just staring at screens wanted to come camping, learn to bake, go on photo walks around town. The turning point came during our 3rd weekend camping trip. We had 4 girls with us, roasting marshmallows and telling ghost stories. That's when Zoe showed up at our campsite with her mom. Emma's mom said we could stop by, Zoe said quietly, looking around at the fire and tents. My mom thought it looked fun when she saw your photos. For a moment, nobody said anything. Then Emma smiled and handed Zoe a marshmallow. Want to hear the scary story Rachel was telling? Zoe sat down, putting her phone in her pocket. For the next hour, she laughed harder than I'd seen in months. No Instagram, no group chats, just kids being kids around a campfire. Later that night, I overheard Zoe talking to Emma in their tent. I'm sorry I was being weird. I thought having a cool phone would make me more interesting, but honestly, I was getting bored just scrolling all day. This is way better. The next Monday, Emma came home beaming. Zoe asked if she could come camping again this weekend. And guess what? She wants to learn Grandma's cookie recipe too.
The way I sleep is too racist. That's what my college roommate told me during our 3rd week living together. I'm an exchange student from Japan, and Madison was my randomly assigned roommate in the dorms. I woke up at 2 in the morning to her standing next to my bed, with her phone light in my face. "You always sleep facing the wall," she said. "Is that a cultural thing?" I sat up, confused. "I just sleep on my left side. It's more comfortable." She nodded slowly. "It's just that you're always turning away from me. It feels like rejection." A few days later, she brought it up while we studied. "I've been reading about body language. Facing away from someone can signal rejection. It's actually considered a microaggression." "Madison, I have acid reflux. My doctor told me to sleep on my left side. It has nothing to do with you." She didn't look convinced. "It feels personal. Every single night you literally turn your back on me." The next week, I caught her taking pictures of me while I slept. When I confronted her, she got defensive. "I'm documenting this because everyone tells me I'm imagining things. I need proof that you're deliberately avoiding me." "Proof of what? Me sleeping?" "Proof that you're creating a hostile environment," she said. Turning away from someone in shared spaces is a way of saying they don't belong. She requested a meeting with Josh, our RA. We sat in his room while Madison presented printed photos of me sleeping, organized by date, every single night, always facing away. And when I try to talk to her before bed, she gives short answers and rolls over. "Because I'm exhausted," I said. "I work until 10, then study." Josh wrote everything down. "Is there anything else going on between you two?" Madison's eyes filled with tears. "She only hangs out with other international students. She barely talks to me. Even unconscious, she can't stand to face me." Josh escalated it to housing services. Mrs. Palmer, the coordinator, looked exhausted. "Madison, you're saying her sleeping position creates a hostile environment?" "It's a pattern of exclusion," Madison insisted. "Everyone keeps dismissing my feelings." Mrs. Palmer turned to me. "Do you have medical documentation for this sleeping position?" I had to miss my chemistry lab to get a doctor's note about why I slept on my left side. Dr. Kim wrote that left side sleeping helps with acid reflux. I felt humiliated. Madison filed another complaint with the diversity office. Suddenly, I was in formal meetings, explaining my sleeping habits to administrators who looked embarrassed but had to follow protocol. Madison cried during a floor meeting. "I've tried everything to make this work, but some people don't want to coexist with others who are different from them." A few people shot me uncomfortable looks. I couldn't sleep anymore, not because of my position, but because I was terrified of what she'd accuse me of next. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of her posts, notes about our interactions, timestamps of confrontations. One night, after she accused me of sighing aggressively, I broke down in Josh's room. "I'm being accused of racism because of how my body naturally rests when I'm unconscious." Josh looked genuinely sorry. "I believe you, but she's filed complaints through multiple channels." "Has she complained about other roommates?" I asked. He hesitated. "I'm not supposed to discuss that." His hesitation told me everything. I requested Madison's housing history under the student transparency policy. It took a week, but they gave me a redacted copy. 3 previous roommates, 3 transfers, all women of color. One complaint mentioned her Korean roommate cooking smelly food. Another mentioned her black roommate talking too loud in her native language. The third mentioned her Latina roommate becoming hostile when asked to discuss privilege. I brought everything to Mrs. Palmer. "Does this look like I'm the problem, or does this look like a pattern?" Mrs. Palmer read through it silently, then picked up her phone. "This is Palmer. I need the full complaint file for Madison Hendricks. All of it." She glanced at me. "Wait outside." I sat in the hallway for 90 minutes. When she called me back, her expression had changed. "We're relocating Madison immediately. There will be an investigation into whether her complaints constitute harassment." 2 weeks later, the decision came through. Madison was moved to a different building and required to complete mediation training. The university sent me a formal letter acknowledging I'd been subjected to unfounded accusations. They offered me Madison's single room since the situation had created documented stress. Madison posted on social media about being punished for standing up against racism. Her first roommate saw it and commented her experience, then the second, then the third. The pattern became undeniable. Madison deleted everything within hours.